In this lesson, we're going to be talking about what you will learn. So we're going to be covering a wide variety of areas, primarily because ethical hacking, white hat hacking, penetration testing, whatever you choose to call it, really has a wide range of applications and knowledge required to do it well. So we're going to be talking about tools and techniques. We're going to be talking about fuzzing, which is a way of looking for vulnerabilities and looking for bugs in programs and applications. We're going to be spending a lot of time in Metasploit, which is a exploit development toolkit, as well as a framework for creating exploits and using exploits. And we're going to be talking about playing. So the tools that we're going to be talking about Dratus, Metasploit, Nmap, Burp Suite. Those are just some of the tools that we'll be talking about and making use of. We're going to be talking about technique, so exploiting with Metasploit, doing web application testing, fuzzing, as well as a little bit of discussion about how some of these different types of vulnerabilities and exploits actually work. Fuzzing is something that's going to give you the ability to actually turn up some of these vulnerabilities that you may be able to write exploits for. Fuzzing, we'll be talking about different frameworks and why fuzzing is good. We're going to be talking about playing. These are not cookbooks that we're talking about here. There's not a set of recipes that you're just going to be able to go out and follow and have immediate success with. It does take some work. Often these exploits and vulnerabilities that we're talking about don't actually function maybe in the way that you expect. Systems are complicated. When you've got a piece of software that potentially has a vulnerability in it, maybe there's something else that actually mitigates that vulnerability or changes it in some particular way. Ethical hacking requires dedication, experience, and knowledge. Curiosity is incredibly helpful. When you run into a place where you get stuck, then thinking about, gee, I wonder what would happen if I did this. And I do a lot of that. And you'll see a little bit of that as we go through these lessons here. When something doesn't quite work the way you expected it to, you really need to be able to go, I wonder what would happen if I did this instead. So curiosity is really helpful. Sometimes things just don't work, as I mentioned. This is not a science necessarily. In other words, there's not just a recipe that you follow. These are the steps that you go through in order to accomplish this particular end. While there are some guidelines that you can follow, sometimes things that you expect to work don't always work. That's kind of the nature of what we're talking about here, is we're actually dealing with buggy behaviors that aren't what they're supposed to be. We're talking about working with software that isn't doing what it was expected to do or what it was intended to do. We're actually trying to make use of these bugs and these aberrant behaviors in order to exploit it and get into the systems and compromise the security. So, as I said, sometimes things just don't work, and that's the nature of what it is that we're doing. So we'll be talking about tools, techniques, fuzzing, playing, and really trying to use kind of a curiosity-based, gee, I wonder what would happen if I did this. We'll certainly be talking about guidelines of how you would go about doing things, and certainly some details about techniques and about the tools, but really it's up to you to extend that and think, gee, I wonder what would happen if instead of what he did, if I went and did this instead.